How we doing, everybody? We are here for another Stunt Guitar with Rob Kraft, rocking the the periodic table of Star Wars elements there. And I've got my Vandalay Industries shirts on, so
Nice.
we're rocking some good quarantine tees right now.
Yeah, totally.
Um, all right, we've got our regulars on. We've got Jude and Steve who are in, and anybody watching out in the Facebook Live world. Hey.
Hello.
We'll also be posting this clinic later on YouTube and onto Facebook as well, so you can watch it at any time and go back with this stuff. A lot of this stuff that Rob's talking about, especially today, like more advanced picking techniques. That's why we call it stunt guitar, because it's the crazy stuff. But so it's good to be able to go back and check these things out again, watch them over and over again. You're probably not going to learn it all in the first run, but you stick at it, just like with anything, you'll get this stuff down and it'll all make sense. So, all right. With that being said, kicking it over to Rob.
All right, cool. Sorry, I'm just getting my Windows set up so I can see what it is that we're supposed to do and explain it in order. Sorry. All right. Well, thank you.
Let me put the tab in the chat too.
Thanks to our.
Started. I'll get the tab in the chat.
Cool. Sounds good. I guess thanks to our regulars for stopping by and checking out this week's stunt guitar thing. So that's very cool. Appreciate it. Today we're going to talk about hybrid picking, which we kind of talked a little bit about last time because we were doing legato stuff. So the first two examples that we're going to be working on are actually exactly the same as the legato ones, but we're just going to be using this hybrid picking technique. So you're going to hold your pick the way you would normally hold it. For me, it's, everybody holds their pick a little bit different. There's not like a right or a wrong way, but like for the shreddy guitar stuff, if you pitch your thumb a little bit forward, we talked about with the alternate picking thing, that'll help the pick hit the string at a nice angle. And then we're basically going to get rid of a lot of ups. Instead of picking up, we're going to use our middle finger to pluck the string. So hybrid picking, I tend to think of really, it's like country guitar players use this sort of first, or the most, is the kind of, genre where you're going to hear a lot of it, where it's very like obvious. So in the same way that like when a bass player does their slap or their pop, you get like that, like just the tone of the way like the finger catches the string. I feel like it emphasizes like bass frequencies in some kind of way. It just kind of makes it sort of organic sounding. So that's kind of the way country guitar players would use this sort of technique, especially with not much distortion and like a lot of compression. It's really going to like pop and then cut through the band, especially in like if you're soloing.
Right, chicken picking, right?
Exactly, yeah, like that kind of a thing. This is sort of taking that technique and sort of weaponizing it for like your shred guitar kind of stuff. And basically the idea here really is to work smarter, not harder, basically. So instead of making your pick hop around and do all these downs and ups, we're going to keep our hand very still. We're going to use a bare minimum of ups and then going to be basically substituting in your middle finger for that. With this sort of technique, though, we're not going like with country guitar players. Usually, when they do use this technique, you're really trying to emphasize the finger that you're grabbing the string with. You want that like sort of organic sound. This we wanted to blend in like as much as possible.
Okay.
And I'm using like my typical. I use the Neural DSP Archetype Pliny plugin for all of these. It's got compression and a lot of saturation and distortion, probably too much reverb and delay, but anything to stroke your ego a little bit while you're practicing is cool too. So I'm going to be trying to let the hybrid picks blend in as much as possible.
So really what you were saying with like the chicken picking and like slap pop for guitar, like you're using it as a separate effect, right? In a way that like you're actually snapping at the strings to make them do a different tonal, more like like to me it sounds, especially with slap or slap pop, it's the percussive sound, right? You get this very percussive, like almost like a snare drum snappy sound with the strings. That just kind of makes your ears perk up and go like, what's going on there? Like, why is like, that's not what I'm used to hearing. So again, with all of this stuff, it's all for color and to add in, well, I guess how Rob's going to be using it is more for efficiency. But for some of these things, it's more about color, just to make people's ears perk up and go like, what's going on? Right? That's especially in a solo, right? And that's where you're going to hear this even in the country Nashville is like in the solos, right? Not in the rhythm sections. It's going to be, I actually was just watching a chicken picking video the other day, and I need to learn some more chicken picking. So this will be fun. Get started.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the idea here is we're not trying to like emphasize that sound so much. Like we're like Jared said, it's efficiency, and we're not trying to like exaggerate it. I spent a little bit of time debating the best way to notate this in Guitar Pro, because that's what I've been using to notate my tab. And I decided that the easiest way to show it was to put the notes that we're going to be playing with our middle finger in parentheses. So that seemed to be the clearest way of showing it. I was going to use, I don't know, I tried a couple different things. It didn't work as well. I think the parentheses is the best way to go about it. So any notes in parentheses, you want to grab those with your middle finger. And then the picking, otherwise, just pay attention to your downs. We are going to use a little ups later in, not in the first couple, but then later in we will be using some ups. So just pay attention to that as best as you can. Remember that like it looks like a mathematical pi sign kind of. That's like a down pick, a V is an up pick, and then the parentheses will be like with your middle finger. Make sense?
Yeah, that was very clear.
All right, cool. So let me double check that I'm loud enough. I know it's the typical, I'm kind of distant, but.
You can maybe
loud enough? You can come a little bit more?
A little bit, but if possible. Yeah, better.
Is that okay? I could even go a little louder if you want, but.
It didn't sound like it was much of a difference before, so if you can it's rock.
I'm more just it's bad enough I've been mixing all this metal music lately. I'm like, I don't want to piss my neighbors off too much, but how's that?
I'm sure that sounds great. I could hear everything. I'm sure they're missing the music and everything out there in the real world. They love it.
all the screaming and everything that I've been mixing right now.
That stuff might be.
All right, cool. So let's get into it. So the first one, like I said, the first two are going to be kind of copy paste from last week. I figured that was a good way to get this started. Hopefully, you guys already worked on the legato aspect of it. Now we're just trying to add in this hybrid picking thing. So the first one is ascending groups of three. It's just good old pentatonic. Pentatonic number 1. I'll lower my camera a little bit more. So really just pay attention to this hand over here. So I'm starting with, I'll go a little faster. So I'm starting with a down, and then going middle finger, and then a down, and then middle finger. So. And it might even be a good idea to just start with that. Now I'm starting to kind of whack a little harder with my finger. Sometimes with this, I know we talked about not exaggerating it, but with like a pentatonic lick like this, you might want to really dig in and exaggerate it a little more, especially if you're on like a lower gain setting. But And you could even just start with like the first part of it, like see if you can get the first bit of the sequence to fire, and then once you get that going on, it's just a matter of repeating it. Letting your hand kind of move down a little is a great idea as well. Getting used to that. Remember, your hand's going to have to move up and down. It doesn't stay in one location. And also remember, we talked from last week with the sequence, try to count the number. If this is your first time learning the sequence, try to count as you go. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you're learning it for the first time, first work on the sequence, then work on the picking, and then gradually speed it up over time. Hopefully you guys already worked on it since we did it last time, so that'll help make it a little easier. But so down pick.
This is cool. I do this sequence all the time, but I've never done it as hybrid picking. So I'm excited to pick up guitar after this and try it out.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, the hybrid picking thing is really kind of the newest technique that I've worked on. I've always done legato before, with a pick. And then I got into some Tom Quayle stuff maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, which is what we're going to get into in just a little bit. Yeah. And Tom Quayle does almost everything with hybrid picking. I mentioned him last week because I think, Alan Holdsworth is the guy that his legato playing is pretty much like unparalleled, but Tom Quayle is really close. The guy's really is that crazy good.
Yeah. I've seen you post some licks from him over the years, and you've playing some of his licks, and they're like, whoa.
Yeah, guy's otherworldly. And a lot of that too has been cool because Tom Quayle does a lot of wide stretched pentatonic. This first lick is about as classic, just shape number one box classic rock as you can approach pentatonics. But starting to approach them with that kind of stuff is just crazy. That's one of my favorite. That's actually the first Tom Quayle lick that I ever learned. It's
that one sounds familiar.
So doing 3 notes on a string for pentatonic, then it just becomes a pattern as well. It's a 3-1, 3-1, 3-1 kind of thing. So you play 3 notes, 1, then 3 notes, and then 1. So anyway, so just start nice and slow, focus on getting, first I would say just focus on try to get the tone and the loudness or the level to match with your pluck as with your pick. I find when you get to the higher strings, that gets harder and harder because they're so much thinner and they're not wound, especially the unwound ones. I have a tendency to maybe put my finger in a little too far and it kind of gets hooked on it. So, a couple things just to think about. And then once you feel pretty good with that, then start working on maybe adding more color, kind of getting that pop, kind of bass thing going on, like a bass player would do. So I kind of varied it there in the beginning. I slapped a little harder, and then when I got to the other strings, I lightened it up. So that's all the little details that you want to start to become aware of, that you can, the more you can add those into your playing, the more well-rounded you're going to sound and the more interesting it's going to be. So one more time slow and then one more time fast. So that's number 1, just A minor pentatonic ascending, groups of 3. That one's super cool, and it flies. That one you can do really fast, and we talked about that last time. Sequences being a great device to build excitement and tension, but you don't want to fill your solo with just endless sequences because then that will be bad and boring too. All right, cool. So we good on that?
Yeah, that sounded great.
All right, sweet. So let's do. This is a Rick Graham G major sequence. We worked on this one again last week. I combined, it was 2 and 3. There was an ascending and then a descending version. I just combined it, because once you got it going up, work on it going down. And then, eventually you'll want to move it through all the 7 major scale positions. This one is in just, root position. So just to go over the shape real quick, it's 3-5-7, 3-5-7, 4-5-7, 4-5-7, 5-7-8, 5-7-8, and that's your whole position. My bad. and then just a matter of applying the sequence. Having a little trouble getting started on the descending part, but there we go. That was a little bit better. I kept like fretting out for whatever reason. So this one is sextuplets. This is like, typical shred guitar, whatever, John Petrucci, Paul Gilbert-esque, kind of shred guitar sequence, just played with legato. Rick Graham is this crazy good guitar player out of the UK. He's crazy good. Just really, like, he's another one of those guys. Just check out, and he focuses like a lot on like teaching. It's like a ton of like different package bundles that you can buy from him. Taking a look at alternate picking, legato, sweeping, hybrid picking. So this is one that I got out of his hybrid picking thing that I bought. So he's super cool. He's done some guest solos on a bunch of different people's music. Pretty sure he has one on a Periphery song, and just check him out. He's crazy cool and really good. So same pattern as last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We talked about that. We're basically combining scale fragments. So the first one is, that's like the first fragment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it just repeats. And then the descending version is just the opposite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for the plucking here, we're going to start with the down. And then we got middle finger, and then back to a down, and then everything's legato. Now, if you've never done these kind of stretches, be careful. I'm really kind of twisting my wrist a lot, but you want to be careful because you don't want to be playing stretch, like flexing. You want to try to relax your hand as much as you can and just sort of let your fingers stretch. Like in here, or what I always tell my students, we've got like smaller knuckles and then bigger knuckles. You want to stretch between these bigger knuckles as much as you can. But if your wrist starts to hurt, stop, do something different, put your guitar down. The wrist is a really complicated part of your body. It's really easy to injure it. I injured mine actually it was almost like a year ago now. And I've been sort of kind of doing my best to not re-injure it again. And then every once in a while I keep hurting it. So, be careful. If your wrist starts to bother you, play something else or just put your guitar down. A large part of this too is it's like working out and exercising. You need to give yourself time to get warmed up and then stretched out before you start doing this. So I started playing about a half an hour before we started the clinic just to kind of get warmed up and ready to go. Don't think you're just going to,
We should do one on warm up exercises, maybe warm up exercises and just stretching out. Another thing that Rob's talking about right now is injuries. Is that you also see sometimes guitar players play with their guitar way down low, which makes your hand do this weird thing like this, and you're stretching out. So I get it. It looks cool for certain things, but for your health, it's not good to do that. There's actually a thing that they call, I've heard it called Saturday night palsy. You ever heard of that, Rob?
I haven't, but that's funny.
It's a thing that guitar players are known to get, where they get numbness in their hands because of this stretch. This is natural. Your wrist is supposed to be, your hand is supposed to bend a little bit. This is not natural, right? So the further you go down, the more, I just always tell my students, same kind of thing, take care of you got to take care of your body with this stuff. Especially, we're asking, what Rob's stuff is it's high performance guitar playing, right? Like this is some serious stuff. So you better be ready. You better be prepare yourself physically to do it. And like Rob said, also rest. Just as important as working out is the time that you rest. So, Jude's a young buck. He can probably just power right through all the time. But us old heads, we gotta rest and recuperate.
Yeah, and it's like, especially once you tweak it, like I hurt my wrist getting out of my cover band's like band car.
Yeah.
Like it just like was the silliest thing. I was the one always doing the driving before all this craziness. And like, it was just the angle of it. And it was like one night getting out, we had driven, probably one of those stupid nights we drove all the way through the night back from Boston, got home at 6 a.m. and just was getting out of the car and like, ooh, what's that? I'm tired, whatever. Yeah. And then the next day, like, man, yeah, that's bothering me. And, so you got to be careful is really it. And that's why like number one is just a good old fashioned pentatonic lick. Yeah. Let's keep it easy. Let's not stretch out, keep it, everything's just a minor third is the biggest stretch. It's just 3 frets. And then, number two, so we're like this for number one, and then now we're like that for number two, and eventually, for like a wide stretch pentatonic, you're like that. So, again, yeah, once you get to that more advanced stuff, don't just pick up your guitar and try to jump right in. You got to do some things. There's also little stretches. I had a professor in college who showed us some stretches that we could totally talk about, how to warm up, maybe do, a week on that. And like, there's a couple things that you can do. Beginning of John Petrucci's Rock Discipline, he actually talks about that a lot, like warming up, and like you can just straight up just rub your hands to kind of get some blood flow going in them. You can also kind of stretch out your wrist lightly, but you got to be real careful with that because you can push too hard and then make it worse.
I dislocated my thumb years ago doing something, same kind of thing, unrelated to playing guitar. Dislocated my thumb. But because I had to keep playing, because, we're professional musicians and you have to keep playing, it took 6 months to heal. So there were just times where I'd be on stage and like squeezing and just being like, ooh, like my whole face, like just like, ah. But, the show must go on, but take care of yourself. Yeah. So, all right, let's anybody have any questions of number two? Do you want to break that down a little further? Or you think you got, I think
I feel like that's pretty much it. It's just major scale up, major scale down, and just keep on,
right.
Think it's like the first one that we did, or from last week. Ah.
Nice.
I'm muting a little crappier on the second string right now. I don't know why.
And another good tip is any of these that we post on YouTube. YouTube has that multiple speeds thing, so you could rewatch these at 50% speed, at 25% speed. It kind of starts sounding pretty wonky at 25 and 50%, but definitely use that's a great practice tool if you don't. Steve, 1% speed for me. Yeah, me too, Steve. I'm with you, dude.
Remember, that's why you got the tab. Take your time, read the tab. Also, go nice and slow in the beginning. Right. You can go very, very slow. Nothing wrong with that at all. With all this kind of stuff, you've got to really program your playing in, get a metronome out and all that kind of good stuff. All right. So I guess we're good. That one's pretty straight ahead. I feel like we're good on that.
Yes. Perfect. Yep.
All right, sweet. So let's take a look at number 3. So number 3 is a Tom Quayle lick. This is an A minor 7 and then 9/11 arpeggio. And then the ending is actually a little bit of my own thing, at least. So it's not all me just stealing Tom Quayle, but the main part is his thing. So let me see if I can play it and not mess it up. So that one's super cool. It's got a little bit more chromaticism in there because Tom Quayle is like a jazz fusion kind of a guitar player. So there's going to be extra stuff in there. Remember, you got 12 notes. You can use any of them at any time. You just have to use them correctly, quote unquote. But that's like a big part of learning how to construct kind of like bebop jazz kind of lines. If you know where your chord tones are, you just fill in the dots in between, basically. That's a gross oversimplification of what bebop jazz players especially do. But that's at least will get you started. If you know C and A are both part of your A minor chord, you can just fill in the gaps in the middle, and you can start to create all kinds of interesting sounding lines that way. So for the first part, we're starting with a hammer-on, and then we're using one of those fingers. So it's like a hammer-on, middle, and then I'm picking. And then I'm using an up. So we are using a little bit of alternate picking here. It's not just all downs and then middle. So it's 5 hammer 8, 7 5 7 5 hammer 9, and then 7, and then it basically just hops up. That's another real common just device. John Petrucci, especially from Dream Theater, does this ad nauseum, where you take any sequence and then you just connect to the next root note and just play the next octave up. That's a good exercise unto itself if you come up with a little sequence. Just getting good at moving that around, and being able to visualize that is a cool idea. So that's kind of the device that we're doing here. So I'll explain it again, just nice and slow. So 5 hammer 8, 7 5 7 5 hammer 9, and then we're shifting up. 7 hammer 10. 9 8 9 8 hammer 12. So we don't do the pattern exactly the same. We change the very end of it to get into the next part, the little chromaticism stuff. So this at this point is my own thing. So and then, well, let me think. And then this thing is actually kind of borrowing from stuff that we did way back in our very first stunt guitar thing with the tapping thing. So it's that kind of a bend and then you tap. Remember, when you do that, you're kind of need to picture 2 frets above wherever you're tapping. Because I'm bending a whole step, I'm bending from C to D. And then when I tap what would be an E note, it's now sounding as an F sharp note. So we're in an A Dorian thing here. And then I'm releasing the bend into a pull off. Oops. Then hammering on 13, then tapping on that same fret. Now instead of here an F sharp, you're going to have an E note. Then I'm going straight down. I'll pull off to open. I love using open strings because that just helps your hand get to a new position on the neck. So, and then we're ending it right now on the note B. So I'm kind of thinking like an A minor 9. It's like a common tension. So a tension is the musical term or theory term for a note you can add to a chord that wouldn't be normally a part of that chord, but works and sounds really pretty. And 9 is kind of the easiest one when you're first starting to work on something like that. Yeah. It's going to sound really pretty and work great all the time. So that's what if you look at it says Tom Quayle, A minor 7, and then parentheses it says 9 and 11. So those are the tensions that we added to the arpeggio on the way up. So that thing right there. So that's the note B and then the note D. So compared to an A minor, that's a like that there, and then that would be like the 11. So 11 is another tension that's really pretty, works great against a minor 7 chord. I know I'm starting to get a little heavy on the theory, but you know, that's a little bit of what's kind of going on. And this is part of like, you know, to create these kind of sort of jazzy sounding lines, to get that sort of complexity. You know, I used to think when I was going to improvise that I was just going to think in like a linear sort of way, you know, like I'm just thinking a melody in my head and I'm just going to play that melody as I improvise. And that like works for some things, but for these more like advanced sort of jazz kind of sounds, you've got to, you can just sing it, but you really got to like kind of analyze it like a little bit, you know? Then once they get more in your head, you know, then you can just kind of sing it and play it. But so a lot of times that's like taking one arpeggio and stacking it on top of like another chord to get at those tensions, or what we would call like the upper extensions of a chord. I've just been rambling for a while. How we all doing?
Oh, no, you're good. It's all good stuff. It's all really good. Good. That one's cool. I like that. That one's got some jazzy stuff, and yeah, I like the 9 at the end on that too. I love that. I love that 9. That's like I always think of the end of Whipping Post.
Nice.
They just do that, you know. They just end on the A minor 9, and it's like they were being hip. They were being pretty hip by doing that. Right?
Definitely, yeah. No, Allman Brothers are amazing. I mean, like all that kind of stuff is just, yeah, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about like improvisers in like a rock setting, you know, but starting to use a little bit more, you know, complex but like in being aware of it, you know, like I think like Carlos Santana is another one. Like, so this lick is in Dorian, and like usually when I tell my students when we start like covering the modes, it's like, you know, Dorian is the Carlos Santana mode. Just listen to Oye Como Va, and there's Dorian. You know, it's like, you know, that's Dorian. You know, and each like, you know, mode has that, like, so like Lydian is the Back to the Future theme song, or it's Flying in a Blue Dream by Joe Satriani is Lydian. So if you want to like start to understand what that sounds like, you know, so yeah, this one is Dorian, which is usually described as like a more soulful sort of version of minor, whatever that means. Okay. You know, so Oye Como Va is like a great one to kind of get your head wrapped around the Dorian thing. Yeah, so this one's really cool. You know, Tom Quayle is awesome. Check him out. You know, all these guitar players too, that, you know, they all have their own Instagram page or their YouTube channel, you know, where you can see plenty of stuff of them playing and even teaching for totally free. You know, you don't even have to buy some stuff. So I'll do it one more time. And also, too, experiment with your pickup selector switch. So, like, right now I'm playing basically all of the licks in, like, one or the other, either in my neck or in my bridge pickup. Remember that changing where you detect or pick up the sound is going to radically change the way your guitar sounds, but also how the distortion will interact. A large part of like becoming comfortable with being a professional guitar player, especially live, is like knowing your equipment well enough so that you know when you go for a certain lick that you'll have enough gain or enough saturation for that lick to come across and not sound kind of stupid. So, you know, experiment with it, because it's going to really change. You know, also play them on like the other settings too. You know, if you've got a 5-way switch, there's like a ton of different settings. This guitar doesn't sound very good on the other ones. These pickups aren't really good at doing that, but I have like other guitars that would sound better. But, you know, experiment with that. Use different. So this is like, that's your neck. I'll click down just like one. And back of the neck. Bridge. So they're all, they're all going to be different in their own way. It's not, better or worse. It's just, getting in tune with, what you can get your guitar to do just by the controls.
Position. Was that your fourth position? I think the first one that you did in that group.
Yeah. So I tend to count like this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't actually know which is correct.
I'm confused also as to which way you're supposed to count that. And Jude mentioned fourth position on a Strat is the excuse me. is like the Jack Stratton from Wolfpack. He's the one that he says that fourth position on the Strat is the one that if you're playing funk music, it's fourth position.
I don't disagree at all. I got an Ibanez guitar that like just sounds incredible, like on position 4 or position 2, whichever way you count. Like this guitar, the lithium pickups that are on this one kind of let it down a little bit when it comes to like versatility. I think in the neck and the bridge, this guitar sounds amazing, but on those other ones that are a little but yeah, like if you've got a guitar with some nice single coils or like a good set of versatile humbuckers, yeah, like that's if you can get those like Stratty, split coil kind of sounds, it's super cool.
All right.
Number 4. So number 4 now, on to our last one for today. This is another one out of my yet to be released instrumental song called 81 Years Past. And this one is kind of tricky. It's going to start with a pickup. So if you notice in like bar 1, there's like a whole bunch of rests. And then it starts on and that's like a good thing just to talk about too, like especially if you're improvising, learning to like or even composing, this is like a composed solo where it's like I'm gonna play this part the same every time if I ever play original music live again, being aware of just something as simple as a pickup is going to help make your phrase or your idea sound more organic. If you start and end every idea on like beat 1 or on like beat 4, if you're going to end there, it's going to start to sound kind of hokey and sort of, or at the very least, just predictable. Like the listener's going to start to be able to pick out, your way of kind of phrasing. And learning to vary that and mix it up is super cool. So this one starts on a pickup on the and of beat 4, and then we slide in on the downbeat, and then it kind of go from there, transitioning into some 16th notes. So that's like a huge part of improvising and composing in general is being aware of those sort of ideas. Also over the bar line phrases and all that kind of good stuff too, which is kind of what this is, since you guys never heard the song, obviously, but like there's a part that comes before it, and then now it's leading into the next part. So it is kind of over the bar line as well, but I will try to not make a mess of this one. And I did. Keep missing the third string. That's a little more up to speed. I'm not doing the greatest job of it right now, but
you're right, 2 hard parts.
That was a little better. That's kind of it. It was a little sloppy, sorry. So nice and slow. We're starting on 8th fret, sliding up to 10, and then we're just doing the legato thing. So 10, hammer 12, hammer 13. And then we're doing this kind of pedal point idea. There we go. I keep missing the third string right now. I don't know why. So we're going like 12, and then I'm using my middle finger to grab 10 on the 4th string, 12, middle finger to grab 14 on the 4th string, and then 12, and then middle finger to grab 12 on the 3rd string. So we have like a little string skip, and that'll be my excuse for why I keep missing it. There we go, finally. And then continuing on, I'm going to start the next part with a down. So I hit a down, and I'm going to do legato, just kind of hammering 10, 12, 14. Then middle finger grabbing 12 on the third string. Then a down on the second string, and I'm going to hammer 10 to 13. And then use my middle finger to pluck 10, 11, 12 on the first. And then a down, 10, 13, 10, just kind of hammer on pull off. So nice and slow again, slide. And then we're ending it with a bend on 15th fret. We're trying to go up like a whole step, back down, and then right into a slide into 10. I wrote it as like a whole step bend, but it's not really. It's kind of like it's a little out of tune, just something.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, kind of bluesy sort of things. Ah!
It's like a sarcastic note.
Yeah, like blues, like in blues.
Yeah. It's like you mute it at the top, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There we go. Finally, that one wasn't totally awful. I knew this one was going to be a little bit of a mess, but I've been practicing.
You write them too hard for yourself to even play now.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's like literally the story of my original music for my entire quote-unquote career.
That's a great thing, though, dude. I love that you do that rather than like write what's easy. Like anybody can do the easy stuff, right?
Yeah, but then when you and your band members can't play it and it's bad, then it's bad. That's a whole nother ball of wax. Also for me too, it's like in the context of playing this, like I've been practicing playing the whole song. I'm not used to like just playing one little teeny snippet, it's like it's the whole section, right. So it is a little tough to now like, okay, let's just zero in on this one little thing, but that's my excuse and I'm gonna stick to it. Ah! Oh my God, I can't play today. So like that's what's all supposed to come next.
Yeah.
Kind of played poorly, but so that, I think gives a little bit more context. I know all of this is out of context because you don't have chords and the band and the drums and the rhythm guitar and all that kind of stuff. But that's the idea. So I'll explain it again, one more time, just nice and slow. So we're starting on that pickup on 8. You slide up and then right into hammer-ons. You don't like have to repick or anything. Then we're going to hit 12 with a down. And then we're going to do the hybrid picking thing. So 10, hybrid pick 14, hybrid pick 12. So that's a string skip. And that's where this hybrid picking thing, I should have said that from the beginning, really shines, is because if you were going to do that with, you see how far my hand has to travel now to do that, and my hand doesn't have to travel far at all now. So if you're playing, especially string skips, I'm skipping from my 4th string all the way to the 1st. Look how hard your hand has to work to do that skip. Why do that skip if your fingers are already near the string? That's really the point of the hybrid picking thing.
You could use your ring finger as well if you were more comfortable with that, right?
Yeah.
Your pinky.
Yeah.
So it's, Rob's technique is to use that middle finger. But if you find another finger, like especially, I know with some chicken picking stuff, they're going to do some double stops where they're going to actually use both the middle and the ring finger together and pull some double stops and pluck them too. So again, the chicken picking's a little different, but Rob's technique is one way. You're going to also develop your own technique. Rob, Jude is baiting us to bash Brad Paisley again in the.
Oh, he is.
The nervous breakdown by Brad Paisley. No, okay, we're gonna say I don't know that song. I'm sure the guitar playing is amazing, and I'm gonna leave it there.
That's so funny.
It's instrumental. Yeah, well, his instrumentals are ridiculously good. There's one at I think it's on the last song in the album with the mud on the tires. I think my mom like bought the CD like when she was part of like one of those Columbia House kind of things. But it's like the spaghetti western warehouse. I don't know. Kung what is it called? Like Kung Pao Kangaroo Buffet or something like that. It's ridiculous. But it's just like the spaghetti western, that theme of like everybody knows that, like that melodic theme. They use that and then he just shreds in between themes and it's just like, what? How does this guy? He does all these really amazing stuff. And I could just see him and there's like one part right at the end where he does like, he's pretty much trading with himself, trading solos with himself. And then he goes and he does this part that's like crazy, crazy part. And I just like picture in the studio of him just like, one more time. There's no way he played that first shot. Like that was like hours of him just being like, just like you're doing now. Like we're getting to see the behind the scenes. Like when Rob releases this recorded, it's going to be perfect and it's going to nail it. But we didn't see all of the takes he had to do to get it to be perfect. Right. Yeah. So.
And like when you record too, a lot of times it's like I would be using like a muter. Like I'm actually making my life a little harder too. I'll fully admit a lot of my Instagram videos and stuff I cheat and there's a muter on the top and you just can't see it because it's not in the shot. Yeah. That muter will go like a long way to help. Like because especially with something like this, it's so like you got to be like on and feeling it and like. I know this is broadcasting to Facebook, so it's got like my blood pressure up like a little bit, and it's just
right.
It's that kind of thing, even like, I think too, it depends on what you're doing in your performance setting. So like, I think when we do like our Rockdale, like recitals, like that has my blood pressure like super high. Like you're standing in front of like, you're standing in front of the parents and it's like, and there's like a degree of public speaking now involved and you're just like, whoa, especially the first one or two recitals that we did. I'm like, but I'd get on stage with my cover band in front of, I don't know. I mean, sometimes we would play on the beach in Atlantic City. So like literally, I don't know there's 30,000 people who can hear us because we're outdoors and we're blasting.
But that doesn't bother you.
But that's no big deal. Like, yeah, of course. No, I'll do that and like be like, just no big deal, cool and everything's fine. And it's, because it's the same gig, we've done this gig a million times, we played like 500 gigs and like, who cares, so it's all like about your, so.
Well, I think it's funny. I just watched this interview with the guitar player. I can't remember his name, but you know what? I bet Jude will know it when I say it. He plays with Snarky Puppy sometimes. Look, he's on it. All right. So anyway, the most nerve-wracking gig I ever played was playing for my daughter's daycare. Yeah, dude. I mean, I've done a lot of the little kid stuff. That stuff can be super nerve-wracking, but also the little kids are the best crowd ever. Once you've won them over, it's like game over. They're like bowing down at your feet. So you just have to do. But anyway, this guitar player from. I could tell you many stories about playing preschool gigs that have been super weird, like going into people's houses and doing a birthday party on a Sunday after like church where everybody's in their Sunday best and me showing up in Birkenstocks. Like, not the greatest look for me professionally that time. But this guitar player talked about how when he plays with Snarky Puppy, he says his nerves are always way higher, and this kind of relates to what you're saying. His nerves are way higher when he plays with Snarky Puppy because all he has to worry about is playing music. when he does his solo gigs, there's all the stuff he has to worry about getting to the gig. He has to worry about like all this other stuff. He doesn't have time to think about and get nervous, which is probably similar to like the recitals, is that like, you know, I'm running most of that and then I just kind of like tag you in and go like, hey, go talk. And you're like, oh, this is all I have to think about. And now it can become consuming when it's all you have to think about. Right. So I thought that was interesting.
You know, and if you're not used to doing something too, like the first couple times you do something live performance wise, I mean, no matter how long you've been playing, if it's the very first time you're rolling something out, you know, you're not going to be as confident about it. You know, it's just kind of the, you know, the reality of it. And like, you know, so I've been getting like, my nerves are actually kind of high the first couple times we did even like the stunt guitar. So that's why I started with tapping. I'm like, all right, well, let's start with something I know I can't screw up. You know?
Yeah.
and then okay, then let's dive deeper into some harder stuff. You know,
I appreciate you sharing that. That's important to know that like we all go through these nerves, even as performers who have played hundreds, if not thousands of gigs. We still get the nerves. Like it depends, you know, even, as soon as because not every gig is within your comfort zone. Not every performance you do is within your comfort zone. And it's that comfort zone that you feel okay in. Obviously, that's your comfort zone. But when you step out of it is when the nerves hit. Right. And I still get them. Like I get nerves, especially like what Rob was kind of saying is like anything that's new will bring new nerves. So like sometimes I get called in to play in a band. Like last year I played in an Aerosmith tribute concert called Aramingo Smith, which you wouldn't think that Aerosmith has that much keyboard parts in it. They have a lot of keyboard parts in Aerosmith songs. And like, just like, you know, it was a band thrown together. We got one rehearsal and then we had a gig. Like that's nerve-wracking for me. Like I like to be prepared. I hate gigs. Like I mean I've had gigs also, like a wedding gig where we never had a full band rehearsal and then we played a wedding and I'm like, this is terrifying. Like we've never played together as a band and now we're playing somebody's one of their biggest days of their life and we have to like lock in and play together. And honestly they all went well when we did that, but leading up to it, I'm pulling my hair out. Like I'm like, I really need to have all my parts down because I need to nail my parts because we don't know how chemistry is going to be, right? We don't even know. So that stuff's terrifying. Yeah. I don't know why we got into our biggest fears in the end of this one, but it's
well,
good.
I think a lot of that too is like, you know, if you think of like athletes, especially the ones that are like clutch, like a large part of that too about not getting afraid of like the big stage is being able to roll, you know, have properly prepared and have understood just how thorough your preparation actually does need to be. That's like a huge thing for me. Like I remember playing original gigs for like the longest time with my band and just thinking like, oh, I got these parts, that's good enough. And then like you get up there and it's loud and you can't really hear yourself or you get, you know, and then all of a sudden you're like making all these mistakes and not to mention now you're standing up. Maybe it's dark. Maybe the lighting's weird, you know, like we played this one gig in New York where there were these like lights on the ground that I didn't even like realize when we were setting up, but they were like just blasting me in the face. Like, couldn't see that, and I played like a million wrong notes and like just whoops. I don't, you know. So
here's a big one too: is like playing outside. If you're used to using an iPad to you know, if you've got some lead sheets and stuff on your iPad, well, the glare might completely make it so you're not able to read your iPad at all. Like these things happen, like, and you're just like, oh, I really should know everything off the top of my head, like when it's an outdoor gig. And that's I think that's a big thing, you know, we talk about with a lot of with our rock bands is when you're practicing in a rehearsal space and then you have to go up on stage and now everybody, instead of facing each other, is facing out, and now monitors, it's not a small room and you've got to it makes the performance much more difficult for them. So I'm excited that the new space that we may be moving into, you guys would all be practicing on a stage every week, because now when you go up to World Cafe Live to join a stage, you're used to it. You're doing it every week. You're facing the direction, and your performances are just going to be so much better if we go that route. So
yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, that's cool. That's going to be awesome.
So
yeah, and I think too, like
more about that in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I think I always think about like Ray Allen, who's a basketball player, played
Yeah.
just incredible shooter. Like I think about that one finals where he's playing for the Heat and they're down and he gets he got the ball with I don't know like a tenth of a second left and had to nail that three and he does because he's Ray Allen and he's amazing. It's that kind of like muscle memory thing. Like you've got to have it down, especially like a lick like I was playing towards the end. Like I don't have it down really enough to where it should be. I got it where if I'm feeling pretty good and I'm at home and there's nobody in front of me, yeah, I'm fine, no big deal. But like we're going out on Facebook and now my blood pressure's up. All of a sudden I can't hit this stupid G note on the third string, So it's that kind of, especially when you're working on to bring it all back around on like this sort of like hyper technical kind of stuff. You've really got to understand it on like a way deeper level that like can be very frustrating and like and then one day you'll have it, the next day you won't. So all that is like, a matter of like getting to know yourself and like understanding how you need to practice in order to really be prepared to, and that's, it's hard. Practice standing up, all that kind of stuff. Like I don't practice really sitting down at all anymore. It's I got my guitar like Buddy Holly high and I don't care, I don't play it low and just practice standing up, So that is hybrid picking in a nutshell. That
That was great, man. That was awesome. Thank you, Rob. I like your Lego dino or whatever that is in the background too.
Yeah, I need to pay attention to more what's going on in the background over here.
No, I like them. I just noticed it, and I'm like, yeah. All right. Anybody got any questions in the chat or anything like that? I did not. Thanks to. All right. It looks like things are good. Let me just make sure. Nothing on Facebook Live with any questions. Nope. All right. We're good. We've successfully Facebook Live with Rob for the first time too, and now his blood pressure will go down next time.
Yeah.
When we don't have it on when you don't worry, no one's really watching anyway. I
got a couple friends that like I'm sure if like especially my one buddy, I'm sure if he saw this, he definitely was tuning in immediately to be like, all right, let me see this kid play a bunch of mistakes.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious. Those are your good friends. Those are your real good friends who just they're gonna check in to see how you fall on your face, right? Those are
exactly.
All right, dudes. Well, thanks so much. Peace out, Rob. Actually, I'll see you in 30 minutes for another Rockdale squad meeting comes up next. So that's our teachers, by the way. So, all right, we'll see you next week. And thanks, dudes. See ya.
See you later. So I was just texting. Thank you, Jude. Thank you, Steve, for stopping by and hanging out with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Woo! See you guys next week.